Hi guys, welcome everyone to our Stop Asking Us to Go Viral session today. My name's Jessica Myers and I am Business Director at The Fifth, which is a social creative agency that specialises in influencer marketing and social content. I'm delighted to be joined by one of our clients and friends, Erina Jones, Director of Social at UKTV. Erina's portfolio includes UKTV Play, on-demand service, W and Alibi Channel. Today we're really excited to discuss with you why we should all stop aiming for virality and instead aim to truly understand and engage with our audiences to strike gold. Erina and I actually have got a campaign as a case study to talk you through how we actually did that, and the results were amazing. Often at our agency we do see a desire for brands to go viral, but this is so unpredictable, and if everyone did it, you would do it all the time. But when the UKTV team did actually brief us, that was not their objective. And we're going to talk to you today about a campaign called Delivering Babies on W Channel, where we did not aim for that objective, but it happened anyway. So without further ado, let's play the VT and have a look at the campaign.
UKTV had some special news worth celebrating in September, and like all soon-to-be parents, they wanted a reveal party like no other to announce the new season of Emma Willis, Delivering Babies. Our mission was to show the ups and downs of motherhood, building a safe space to allow mums to share their own raw, authentic and personal stories. We utilised TikTok, Instagram and even podcasts to share their unfiltered birthing stories. Our campaign opened the door to a new kind of social conversation, normalising discussion around motherhood's tougher moments and breathing new life into UKTV's existing life unfiltered strat. And our approach achieved some eye-watering results, calling for mums to add their first ever photo with their newborn. The campaign as a whole achieved over 6 million video views with a reach of nearly 5 million, leaving UKTV feeling like proud parents, and our audience ready to watch Emma Willis Delivering Babies.
So, Erina, that brings back loads of great memories, that campaign.
Yes.
So as I said at the top of the call, you didn't actually ask us to go viral. What were you really looking for when you briefed us on this campaign?
No, and I definitely didn't ask you guys to go viral because that word literally makes my skin crawl. With this campaign, the task was to drive awareness and excitement for the return of Emma Willis Delivering Babies on W Channel amongst existing fans and new fans. And in the social world, that looked like conversation and talkability, because we know that if we can drive conversation, then that's going to in turn drive awareness and convert people into the show. We also knew that from previous series that the mum community, specifically on Instagram, were really vocal about this show. They were real advocates for the program. And so we knew that if we focused in on them and got them talking, it would hopefully scoop up a wider audience and recruit those newer fans into the program. And you saw from that reel there that conversation and talkability, that was our goal, but what we actually saw was an outpour of emotion, vulnerability, people sharing essays and essays of personal kind of photos and UGC content. And it got to the point for us where the audience was actually carrying the conversation for us rather than just joining in. And for me, that was the huge marker of success. And that's when I really thought, oh, this has caught some light. This is actually gaining some traction and momentum. And I think the add yours sticker mechanic on Instagram really allowed us to be able to tap into that and drive that momentum. So for me, it wasn't virality that we were going for. It was a lot more simpler than that. It was simply to drive awareness with our audience, drive that conversation and that talkability, and we were really focused on a specific audience. And I think if you're really intentional and single-minded about what you're trying to do, rather than be distracted by something like virality, then you're able to your chances of striking gold are much higher.
I think that's spot on, and I think that's what you said about virality being a distraction. It should never be that main goal, but I think the beauty for us when we worked on this together is that we got both. But it was because we were focusing on that engaging with the audience and really understanding what they wanted. So on that point, really moving on to the content strategy that really fueled this campaign, let's have a quick chat about how crucial it was that we really understood that audience and also the space that they were operating in. So I know from when we were doing the content strategy on this campaign, what really came across was that expectant mothers could not find the real honest content that they were looking for online. It was all quite rose-tinted glasses, it was highly sanitised. What they really needed were the details. They needed the facts. They were about to go through something really major here. And actually, Delivering Babies, the TV show, does that extremely well. So we took it as our role to really translate that honest, raw, unfiltered content and translate that onto a social campaign. So obviously the first thing we did is ensure that we were working with influencers that would be able to tell those stories in a very personal way. And our content strategy effectively dictated that content did have to be very open and very honest. What was a lovely ladder up was that laddered up very nicely to W's channel's creative strategy, Life Unfiltered. Could you share that with me and the audience a bit more?
Yeah, sure. So W Channel, for those who haven't heard of it, is a female skewing channel aimed at 25 to 44-year-old women. And the shows that we make and the way in which we show up with our audiences, it's all about showcasing those real, genuine human moments. So we have shows like Inside the Ambulance, where we follow the West Midlands ambulance service. We have shows like Stacey Dooley Sleeps Over, where Stacey spends a ton of time with extraordinary families across Britain. We have Emma Willis Delivering Babies, where Emma Willis is training to be a maternity care assistant. So we give that authentic access into these real, genuine human stories. And as a brand, we're kind of there for that. We ensure that that's captured and we really embrace that. We don't stand for the kind of polished or the perfect. We're all about that unfiltered joy. And I think Life Unfiltered is a really great articulation of that brand proposition, and that's a creative strategy and a creative platform, I guess, that we use as a jumping off point for a lot of our creative and the way in which we show up as a brand. So we embody Life Unfiltered in all of our touch points across all of our marcoms and our communications. And I think, to your point, it was a really great jumping off point, again, to this social campaign, because Life Unfiltered translates so perfectly into the social space, but also specifically around the sentiment of this program and what we were offering viewers.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it's like, we've been seeing this at the Fifth for a long time, and it is a long-term shift we're seeing, but you cannot underestimate that, the shift of the overly polished to that more unfiltered content. And we've seen some major trends this year, like whether it's, the Notes app trend or blurry Instagram pics or your photo dump, the audiences are moving towards that direction. And I think maybe where we took it a step on with this campaign is that we tapped into that, but in a very extreme way, because these are extreme, happy situations. However, so we tapped into that, but what else do you think it is on top of all of that that made it a success?
I think it's all of those things, but I think it's probably the fact that this topic, motherhood, birth stories, it's not something that you ordinarily see, but it's something that actually people do want to talk about and find out more about. So it was kind of a radical shift, I think, from what the audience were expecting to see and what we were able to give. I also think it's the way that we worked with the influencers. So for us as a brand, it was a huge privilege for us that these influencers wanted to work with us and wanted to share their personal birth stories. And, we have no right to tell them how they should tell that story or in what way they should tell it. So we were really, we made sure that we didn't kind of feedback or edit any of the content. We just let the stories kind of speak for themselves. And I think as a result of doing that, the authenticity really came through, and I think that's also why it worked so well and resonated so well with our target audience.
I totally agree. So I suppose in a nutshell, we're saying it's very clear to us that understanding our audience is one thing, but really ensuring you're understanding their space. We've been speaking about this a lot for the last couple of weeks, but let's take the audience through what those really clear, actionable learnings were. Can you kick us off?
Yeah, I think the first learning is to use the in-platform tools of the social accounts. And I think that seems really simple and really obvious, but I think it's something that brands don't do often enough. If you tap into the context and the nuance of each social platform, you're able to ensure that your creative and your approach is told in a way that is really authentic to that platform and to that audience, and that's super, super key. And I think for us, we saw that success with using the Add Yours mechanic on Instagram. So I think a number one tip and number one learning is to lean into the platform tools and ensure that you're using them in your creative approach.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely spot on. I think another thing as well that I really picked up is really make it as easy as possible. So the Add Your photo, which obviously was our standout piece of content, asking people to act on social is actually a big ask. Like, you need to make it as simple as possible. And asking new mothers to do that. One of our key insights why we knew this would actually be an easier ask is that we knew that new mothers would have those special pictures of themselves and their first child saved, as a favourite, like in their camera reel. I actually took part in this campaign as well. I realised how successful this campaign was when a number of my friends on Instagram were taking part in this campaign, and I had not sent them the link to do it. And, I was like, wow, something special is happening here. So I took part of that. And it wasn't just the fact that it was so easy, it was that it was such a special thing for me to take part in, because it was really bringing back such a positive memory. And I think it's something like that when you're working on something that's really special.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a few minutes and we're on time. So I think...
One more.
One
I have
more
one
learning,
more learning,
I'm sorry,
which
yes.
is that I think leading by example is really important. So this was something that we were asking our audience to do. It was a big deal asking people to share their birth stories, right? It's very personal, and it's very unique. And I think using influencers as a catalyst to share those conversations, using them to lead the conversation, is a really great way to bring people along the journey and ensure that they're almost setting the example, creating that safe space in order for people to get involved. And I think as a brand, when UGC is something that you're trying to create, using influencers to shape what the outcome kind of looks like is a really great way to get the audience to kind of understand what you're trying to ignite, what you're trying to get going. So using influencers to lead by example, I think, is a really important thing to take from
I think you're
this.
right. So I think, in essence, we never sought out virality, but it found us. And that is literally because we started off with good intentions and good interactions, and it came and found us. We've got one more minute, and I just want to ask a personal question. So we've done all the campaign, which is brilliant. I hope you agree. But for people in the audience that are otherwise carving out a career in media or starting to work on a big new project, is there a piece of advice that you've been given by a peer that you adhere to pretty much every day?
Okay, I've got one. My old boss once told me, only do what you can do. And what that means is only do the projects, the tasks, have those conversations that only you can do, aka where you can truly add your own value. I think that as you progress in your career, you have to delegate more, you have to kind of let things go, you have to bring your team along the journey and empower them. And you have to think differently, and you have to show up at work differently. So for me, only do what you can do was a really great framework for me to be able to do that, let go, bring everyone on the journey, but only really do the things that I was there to do. Yeah. And something that I try to live by every day.
Thank you,
it's hard
Erina.
to, but I try.
Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Done.
Massive thank you to Jessica and Erina.